Good afternoon, everyone. As part of the PLT this afternoon, Jeremy has asked me to say a few words about one of my favourite subjects, me, and my role and any changes that might be coming over the next few months. So, for anyone that isn't or can't remember how my role came about, I'm from the ambulance service. I joined Southwest Ambulance Service back in 2010 as a emergency care assistant, then soon qualified as paramedic, and then became lead paramedic for Southwest Ambulance Service. As a family, we then moved up to East Midlands, and it was very much at that point I just realised that I had outgrown the ambulance service. Since qualifying as a paramedic, I'd continued to complete master's modules and was qualified in advanced practice. But there was very much no scope for improvement in terms of the ambulance service. Discussed it with management, wanted to take it further, wanted to do my prescribing and take that out on the road. And initially, EMAS were very pleased with that idea, but then when it came to qualifying, they then decided it wasn't something that they could roll out at all because I would be too different to everyone else on the road. At that point, I contacted Castle Healthcare Practice, and thankfully, as you are all visionaries, you decided to take a chance and give me a little trial here, and thankfully that obviously has paid off because 3 years down the line, you're stuck with me. When I joined the practice, the idea was very much that I would continue with seeing the kind of patients that I'm used to, the acute, the undifferentiated patients, and for the first year or two, there was lots of mix of acute patients, but then also quite a few routines, and I was being drawn into reviewing pathology and things like that, which was very useful for me, but I don't think it was the most efficient use of my skills and the most efficient use of clinical time here at the surgery. So more recently, my rota has changed to being primarily acute on the day presentations, and I think that is working really well. It's the area that I am most comfortable with and most efficient with, and it also means I'm not messing around with some of the management, the long-term management of some of the more complex patients, which I think is best for both the surgery and for the individuals themselves. Now, as a ACP in primary care, there are certain things I can do and certain things I cannot do. As an independent and supplementary prescriber, because I'm a paramedic by background, I can't prescribe any controlled drugs at the moment, but that's something I'll get back to in a few minutes. One of the other limitations is that I can't sign sick notes because the legislation has changed. ACPs aren't recognised as being able to sign sick notes, so until the legislation around that changes, that's something I just won't be able to do, and that's something I'll always either have to task one of you or add it onto the pink list if it's time sensitive. One of the other limitations that was in place that's soon to change is about my ability to order clinical imaging, so plain film X-ray. When I first started here, I had a discussion with IT and with ICE, and they said, "Oh, you're not a doctor, so you don't need X-ray privileges." And very much locally in Nottinghamshire, that is the norm, that any of the R's roles, or anyone who isn't a GP can't. You can't be a non-medical referrer for plain film X-ray with NUH. But over the last few months, myself, Jeremy, Liz Harris from Partners Health, James Pratt, who is the head of advancing practice at NUH, Erin Mumtaz, and Sam Bridgemont, who is the head of radiology at NUH, have met a few times and discussed a way of of moving that forward. And we're just about to commence a trial. So there's going to be myself and 4 other ACPs within Rushcliffe who have actually just had yesterday our IRMA training via Sam Bridgman and Kate Knowles. So now we are in the process of essentially earning our radiology privilege. So what happens now is, so yesterday I had a 2.5 hour IRMA session online with NUH, and discussing the legal side of things and the indications for plain film X-ray. Now I'll have a period of supervised practice, essentially. So for the next 8 requests that I need to make for radiology, those will have to be sent in by a GP, as I've been tasking people in the past, or putting it on the pink list, or speaking to one of you, or putting it on call. That will continue, but each of those will be documented. And as long as I'm doing upper limb, lower limb, and chest, there's not going to be anything fancy like spines or anything like that. I'm not going to go into too much detail. And then once I've done those 8 requests, and as long as they are all appropriate and reasonable requests, then we send off a completed audit form to NUH, to Sam Bridgman, and then I get radiology privileges. It's, as I say, it's very much as a trial at the moment. So as I say, there's myself and 4 other ACPs in Rushcliffe through Beaver and Village, essentially. And once we've all carried out our 8 supervised, and once we are working independently, then it will be reviewed and see what an impact it has made on NUH. Whether we all just get a bit trigger happy and start sending them everything willy-nilly, and actually we can't be trusted, then obviously the trial will stop. But I'm confident that won't happen, and we will be seen as competent. And then at that point it can be rolled out across Rushcliffe. So therefore at that point, any surgery who has any of the R's roles, or any allied professionals that they feel are working at an advanced level, or are qualified ACPs, they will be able to sign up to request radiology privileges. They'll go again through the same supervised practice timescale, and then again they'll be able to request plain film X-ray. This will be subject to audit and training. So obviously anyone will, going forward, will once they're nominated by the surgery, which has to be done by the practice manager with the sign off of a senior partner. They will have the IRMA training, as I did yesterday, and then they will go into the supervised practice. And then once they've done that, they'll be independent and be able to request going forward. And any requests going forward will then be audited annually by someone within the practice. So one of you will have the joys of auditing my radiology requests next year, once I've been independent for a year. So that's really exciting. That's something that's being added to my role, that is helping share the workload amongst us, rather than me just keep having to discuss every patient that needs an X-ray. Obviously, if there's something that I'm unsure about, I feel they do need it, but I could do with another pair of eyes, then I will still discuss cases with you going forward. But it's really exciting from my point of view that it's something else that's been added to my boat, and it's something else that it's not just for me, it's being able to be spread out amongst everyone in Rushcliffe. I put together some of the SOP behind this, which was again a nice experience for me to actually be part of the legislation. So I'm really pleased that Liz and Jeremy and Sam and included me in the process, and I'm very glad of that. So thank you. One other thing that's changing with my role is as I mentioned before, as a paramedic, I cannot prescribe any controlled drugs. Whilst I was doing the prescribing course, I was told that I could, but that was because prescribing was still very new to paramedics, and essentially there was a white paper to change the Misuse of Drugs Act. But then COVID happened, and that white paper was never signed off. It has now been signed off. So fingers crossed, around Christmas time or very early into the new year, there will be a list of controlled drugs which will be added to my formulary. Essentially, the things that's going to make the difference, it's going to be codeine and diazepam are the more kind of everyday, low-level controlled drugs that often my acute patients need. But at the moment, I'm having to write the prescription, then pass it on to someone else or add it to the pink list to be signed. And again, it's just about spreading out the workload slightly amongst everyone and everyone here to make it more efficient for both us and for patients, whilst ensuring that we provide a safe and efficient service as well. So those are the things that are changing from my point of view. I think going forward that continuing to manage mainly acute patients is where I am best kept. But like I say, there's those couple of extra little skills or privileges that are being added to my bow, which I'm really excited to implement, and hopefully over the coming months you'll see a little bit of a difference in that the pink list might be a little bit shorter if I'm not continuing to add things on, and it will help continue my professional development as well, because it's adding another clinical skill and it's adding more experience. Sorry I can't be there to answer any questions that anyone has. I'm more than happy to answer questions about anything that I've mentioned today, or my role, or any limitations that I may have, or any further training ideas that any of you have got that you think might benefit my role and the practice. For example, last year I attended a joint injection course. I'd still like to see a couple more in action, and essentially kind of eyeball you doing a few more before I feel fully ready to roll out and do those myself. But I've seen a few, and I think that's going to be the next skill that I add to my bow as well. I've discussed it obviously with a few of you all already. But yeah, so I shall see you soon. But if you've got any questions about my role or the radiology trial, Jeremy will be more than capable of answering those questions, because he's been heavily involved in it as well. But yeah, so I shall see you soon.